Namaste. Schizophrenic form disorder stands between the brief psychotic disorder and schizophrenia. Today, we will discuss schizophrenic form disorder with psychoanalysis consultant Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste.
Namaste.
Sir, can we start with what schizophrenic form disorder is all about?
It is a disorder on the schizophrenic spectrum. It is a disorder on the continuum of brief psychotic disorder. Then we have the schizophrenic form disorder, and then we have schizophrenia, where there is a substantial commonality of symptoms with a difference of intensity and duration. So schizophrenia form disorder is more serious than the brief psychotic disorder and less serious than schizophrenia. In terms of duration, it stands between 1 month to 6 months of duration.
Mhm. So, what are the symptoms covered by the term schizophrenia form disorder?
The symptoms covered are uh, hallucinations, delusions, disorganized speech, disorganized behavior, catatonic behavior, uh, bizarre ideas and bizarre behavior. All those things we put under this broad heading of schizophrenic form. The most common are delusions, hallucinations, and disorganized speech.
So, like, what is the psychoanalytic explanation of causation of schizophrenia form disorder?
Uh, First, we have to understand that the psychoanalytic explanation is not very different for all the three: brief psychotic disorder, schizophrenic form disorder, and schizophrenia. The psychoanalytic explanation in terms of phenomena or in terms of the operational mechanisms is not very different. But two things are important. One, when we talk about when you talk about schizophrenic form disorder, we are talking of an entity which is on a continuum in the middle of the continuum. When this is so, we have to be careful about two things related to this entity: the stability and the movement. Is the schizophrenic form disorder stable, or is it moving towards the brief psychotic disorder, or is it moving towards schizophrenia? It's very, very important to note this, because this will tell us whether our treatments are working or not working.
So, is it to do with the
And
severity of the symptoms when you talk
yes,
about more
because
linear way?
yes, because essentially in entire chapter of schizophrenic spectrum disorders, schizophrenia spectrum disorders, we are looking at a contest in the ecosystem of the person between factors of health and factors of sickness. So the factors of health are inside as well as outside. The factors of sickness also are inside as well as outside. And it's the cumulative contest between the two. And in that contest, there is an equilibrium, an unhealthy equilibrium, where the diagnosis happens, which is stable. Now, if that equilibrium shifts, the diagnosis also starts shifting. Okay? And we see the deterioration or improvement in the person. That is one aspect of this understanding psychoanalytically this disorder, that the stability and the movement is something that we have to be aware of. Second, understanding psychoanalytically speaking is in terms of the phenomena, that the psychoanalytic explanation in phenomenological terms is based upon Freud's idea of repressed homosexuality leading to this disorder, Klein's idea of attack of the bad breast, Winnicott's idea of deficit in good mothering, Kohut's idea of a fragile self which can disintegrate easily, uh, Jung's idea of too much of activation of the devouring mother archetype the swallowing mother archetype or the predator archetype, and too little activation of the hero archetype and the hunter archetype. You can also have the phenomenological explanation of Devanlu in terms of the repressed, torturous or murderous rage towards the parents, right, or the guilt, both of which create phenomena which either are self-punishing directly inside or by projection outside, which often appears to us on the surface as a schizophreniform disorder.
Right.
In terms of operational mechanisms, there are 8 operational mechanisms, psychoanalytically speaking, which explain most of the disorders of this chapter, including schizophrenic form. The 8 disorders are: the first is wish fulfillment. You create a world you want because in reality you can't have it. So it's an unreal world you have created in which you live.
Right.
Jung used to say, this person is dreaming in a world wide awake. So that would be one, wish fulfillment. Second mechanism is of uh, attack on linking.
Okay.
Third, on attack on separation. Fourth, disintegration. Fifth, projection. Sixth, withdrawal because of resignation and sadness. Seventh, fusion and confusion. And eighth, distorted release of repressed affect. These 8 operational mechanisms are underneath all the disorders of this chapter, including schizophrenic form.
That's quite wide series of the issues underlying with the psychoanalytic explanation. So when we proceed in psychoanalysis, how does psychoanalysis deal with healing of schizophrenic form disorder?
We proceed with classical psychoanalytic therapy, but essentially it's a long-term therapy. We are looking in terms of duration of at least 2 years and twice to thrice per week.
Okay.
So 2 to 3 sessions per week for 2 years, that would be the kind of a minimum looking at this difficulty of a disorder. And the way we would proceed would be to start off initially with a Cohusian orientation and create a safe space for the person, because he is dealing with very difficult, unsafe entities inside and outside. So a safe space where he can put his unsafe entities in a safe way, where the container is benign enough, benevolent enough, and strong enough to contain, which means the therapy space as well as the therapist both. So this is the first thing that we would have to look into and create a safe space. And once that holding part is done and self-expression is done and acceptance of the patient post his self-expression is done, the patient would feel himself largely at home. And then the real interpretative work would begin. This would take 2 forms. If we are dealing with Oedipal pathology, we would go with the traditional Freudian route. If we are dealing with pre-Oedipal pathology, we may have to take the Kleinian route. But one thing we have to be careful is not to open up the pre-Oedipal part unless it is very, very necessary. Because in many cases, the fragility would be too much, and opening something too much too soon can actually be felt as disintegrating.
Right.
One more thing we have to be careful is about the goodness of the therapist, because this is that intensity, schizophreniform and schizophrenia. This is that spectrum where people coming in would be so sick that the goodness of the therapist might evoke too much of envy in them. And the more good you become, the more they deteriorate in health because of envy.
Okay.
And the normal therapist who is not trained in the Kleinian envy, the concept of Kleinian envy, would find it difficult, because the more good he becomes, the worse the patient gets. So that is a phenomena we have to be careful about. Not that it happens to everybody, not that it is a prescription not to be good. That is not the idea at all. But the idea is that in some cases, because this extreme spectrum of schizophrenia form and schizophrenia, right, and some extreme forms of borderline pathology, and some extreme forms of multiple personality disorder,
Mm-hmm.
these are some of those unique cases where the envy dynamic is very important. And we have to be careful in therapy that at times our goodness may be flaming that envy further, and then that has to be worked through, brought out in discussion and worked through. So this is the broad uh, way of proceeding with therapy.
Mm-hmm.
If we can see the patient improve with our Oedipal orientation, right, or post-Oedipal orientation, or in pre-Oedipal cases only with dealing with attachment issues, that's the simplest of all. And the most complicated will get when we actually have to get into very early life Kleinian or very early life fusion dynamics of the person.
Okay. So, Mr. Vedya, that's quite an important point here. The benevolent therapist or the goodness is case sensitive. Because,
Yes. So we have to be careful that we have no choice but to be good, and we also have to protect the patient from our goodness
from our goodness.
if necessary.
So, when we bring in the holistic frame, is there a way holistic healing approach can help healing schizophrenic form disorder?
Yes, surely it can, because we are dealing with a very severe range of disorder, both in schizophrenic form and in schizophrenia. And it's very necessary that the person gets into a healthy supporting ecosystem. Okay? So if we bring in relaxation exercises, if we bring in homeopathy, if we bring in uh, pranayam, if we bring in guided visualization or guided meditation, if we bring in social work, if we bring in supportive peer groups,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if we bring in Reiki and pranic healing, all of that are very, very healing to the patient. It actually makes a more comprehensive treatment plan. And
Mm-hmm.
many of these tools are such that the patient can help himself even between sessions. And
Mm-hmm.
that adds to the good that he does to himself.
So that triggers another question here, like that the patient becomes more aware about himself and his condition and his functioning and his healing. So, how is patient education important in the context of this order?
It's very, very important, both patient education and caregiver education.
Mm.
Because the first difficulty in this kind of disorders is just not knowing what is happening to me.
Mm.
And that further compounds all sorts of catastrophic anxieties.
Right.
So the moment you know what is happening to me, uh, the presence always is limited, the absence is infinite. So that presence of that knowledge, right, no matter how difficult the explanation, still is a limited difficulty. And therefore, once you have an explanation, you find yourself much better, anxiety reduces from that infinite anxiety of the unknown. Secondly, the person knows the do's and don'ts, what will help him and what will not. Third, the person knows what is real and unreal, what are the symptoms of his sickness, and what is real life experience. So his ability to develop a sense of discrimination between the unreal experiences because of sickness and his real experiences, that slightly improves, at least in a cognitive way.
Mm-hmm.
More importantly, he knows what to focus upon in terms of his experiences. So his reporting to the psychiatrist or therapist becomes much better.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, he is able to manage himself better, find more holistic tools to aid his healing process, which is centered on psychiatric drugs and therapy both. To that central healing process, he can add on himself, by himself, what
Mm-hmm.
works best for him. So this is very important. I think it is a great tool for both empowerment and relief from this terrifying anxiety of the unknown.
Right. So at the same time, like we've seen that mostly it's such severe illnesses are quite debilitating to the family members and the caregivers also, because even their life is affected and their functionality is also challenged. So where you feel like in therapies, should the family members be involved during the session, and how important is caregiver or parental education here in this context to this disorder?
In psychoanalytic psychotherapy, we don't involve the parents. It is done individually, one to one, only the therapist and the patient.
Mhm.
So we don't involve parents in that way, but we can have a few joint sessions, not sessions, but joint meetings, okay,
Okay.
where initially before we start the therapy, we can have a joint meeting for explaining to them what are the do's and don'ts, what
Mm-hmm.
will help and what will not help, and explain to them the causation of certain things, why they are happening.
Mm-hmm.
This also brings us to the next element of the significance of the caregiver education,
Mm-hmm.
because they also have to know the do's and don'ts, what will help the patient, what will make him worse.
Mm-hmm.
They also have to know how something innocent that they do or something with good intention that they do, how that can be interpreted as something persecutive or dangerous by the patient.
Right.
And this often happens that you do something out of a good intention or innocently, and the patient, because of the sickness that he has, interprets that in a very psychotic way, leading to very different results than what you anticipated. It is also important that the caregivers themselves require support so that they don't develop secondary problems of secondary anxiety, secondary depression, which is very common when you have to look for somebody with this kind of a severe difficulty.
Right.
So the caregivers also don't become desperate and have a panic when something happens if they know what is happening. They can also make out which medicine is working or not working much better with some amount of psychoeducation. So, in terms of managing the patient, efficacy of knowing about efficacy of therapy or medication, in terms of self-care, in terms of the do's and don'ts of the sickness, what to do or what not to do in front of the patient, all those factors, you can greatly empower the caregivers with caregiver education.
Rightly said, like preventing the secondary burn with caregivers and the parents. I think that can create more positive and healthy holistic support to the patient. So it is very important. Thank you, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya, for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
We have covered today the schizophrenic form disorder. In the subsequent videos, we will be covering other disorders from DSM-5 in the same way. Do watch our coming videos and write to us. Namaste.